There's something that happens right before every major breakthrough in your life, and most people completely miss it. They're so focused on waiting for the big moment, the grand revelation, the obvious sign that change is coming, that they overlook the quiet signal that's been sitting right in front of them this entire time. You know that feeling when everything seems to be falling apart at once? When the job that used to feel manageable suddenly feels suffocating? When relationships that were perfectly fine start feeling like they're draining your soul? When hobbies you loved now feel like chores you're forcing yourself through? Most people panic when this happens. They think they're having a breakdown, that they're losing their mind, that something is fundamentally wrong with their life. But what if I told you this isn't a breakdown at all? What if this chaos, this discomfort, this strange restlessness is actually the most reliable sign that you're about to level up in ways you can't even imagine yet? See, here's what nobody talks about. Growth doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't send you a calendar invite or give you a heads up that change is coming. Instead, it shows up disguised as discomfort, as dissatisfaction, as this gnawing feeling that where you are right now just isn't enough anymore. And most people, when they feel this way, they try to fix it. They try to get back to feeling comfortable, back to feeling satisfied with what they have. But comfort is the enemy of growth, and satisfaction with mediocrity is the killer of potential. Right now, as you're listening to this, you might be in that exact space, that weird, uncomfortable middle ground where nothing feels quite right anymore, where you're questioning decisions you made months ago that felt so certain at the time, where you're looking around at your life and thinking, this isn't bad, but it's not what I want either. That restlessness you're feeling, that's not your anxiety talking. That's your potential trying to get your attention. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding this feeling. They'll change their environment, switch up their routine, buy something new, start a relationship, end a relationship, anything to get rid of that uncomfortable sensation that something needs to shift. They treat it like it's the problem, instead of recognizing it for what it actually is, the solution trying to emerge. You see, your subconscious mind is always several steps ahead of your conscious awareness. While you're consciously trying to maintain the status quo, trying to keep things stable and predictable, your deeper self is already outgrowing the container of your current life. It's already ready for the next level, the next chapter, the next version of you. And when there's a mismatch between where your soul wants to go and where your mind thinks you should stay, that's when this restlessness shows up. It's like trying to wear clothes that are 3 sizes too small. Technically, you can make it work for a while. You can squeeze yourself in, hold your breath, pretend everything fits just fine. But eventually, it becomes impossible to ignore how restrictive and uncomfortable it feels. Your spirit works the same way. When you've outgrown your current circumstances, your current mindset, your current way of being, it starts to feel suffocating to stay there. But here's where it gets interesting. The discomfort isn't random. It's strategic. It's your internal guidance system, creating just enough pressure to motivate you toward change. Think about it. If you felt perfectly content with everything exactly as it is, would you ever push yourself to grow? Would you ever take risks, make changes, step outside your comfort zone? Probably not. Comfort breeds complacency, and complacency is where dreams go to die. So this restlessness, this dissatisfaction, this feeling like you're meant for something more, it's not a bug in your system, it's a feature. It's the universe's way of preparing you for your next evolution. But most people fight it instead of following it. They try to medicate it away, distract themselves from it, or worst of all, convince themselves that wanting more is somehow selfish or ungrateful. Let me tell you something. Wanting more isn't selfish. Settling for less than what you're capable of is. When you play small, when you stay comfortable, when you refuse to honor that inner calling for growth, you're not just limiting yourself, you're limiting everyone whose life could be touched by the version of you you're meant to become. Right before every level up, there's always this period of what I call productive discomfort. It's the caterpillar getting restless in the cocoon, It's the seed cracking open underground before it becomes a tree. It's the labor pains before the birth. And just like in nature, this process can't be rushed, but it also can't be avoided if you want to reach your full potential. The problem is, we live in a culture terrified of discomfort. We're taught that if something feels hard, uncertain, uncomfortable, we should immediately fix it or escape from it. But some discomfort isn't meant to be fixed. Some discomfort is meant to be followed. It's meant to guide you to the edges of who you've been, so you can discover who you're becoming. Think about the last time you leveled up in any area of your life. Maybe it was a promotion, a new relationship, a move to a different city, a breakthrough in your health, or finances. If you really think back, I guarantee there was a period before that breakthrough where things felt unsettled, where you felt that inner tension between staying where you were and moving towards something unknown. That tension, that restlessness, that feeling like you're being pulled in a direction you can't quite see yet, that's the signal. That's what always appears right before you level up. And the people who recognize it, who trust it, who follow it instead of fighting it, they're the ones who end up living the lives most others only dream about. The thing is, most people think they need it all figured out before they make a move. They're waiting for clarity, certainty, some kind of cosmic green light saying, yes, now is the time. But that's not how transformation works. Transformation doesn't wait for you to be ready. It shows up when you're still confused, still scared, still questioning everything. And here's the part that really messes with people's heads. Right before you level up, everything not aligned with your next chapter starts feeling intolerable. The friend who used to be fine suddenly feels draining. The job that paid the bills suddenly feels like it's stealing your soul. The routine that once brought comfort now feels like a prison you locked yourself into. Not because those things changed, but because you did. Your frequency shifted, your standards evolved, your tolerance for settling, gone. What used to be good enough isn't good enough anymore, because you're no longer the person willing to accept good enough. Most people interpret this as depression, something being wrong with them. They think they're becoming difficult, picky, impossible to please. They start doubting themselves, wondering if they should just be grateful, stop wanting more. But that voice telling you to shrink, to settle, to silence your expansion, that's not wisdom. That's fear dressed up as practicality. Your soul doesn't expand backwards. Once you've tasted what it feels like to be truly alive, truly aligned, truly living your purpose, everything else feels like a cheap imitation. And that's not a problem to solve. That's growth happening in real time. That's your inner compass recalibrating to point toward what's actually meant for you, instead of what you were settling for. But here's where most people get stuck. They feel the restlessness, the dissatisfaction, the knowing that change is needed, but they don't know what to change or how. So they stay paralyzed in the discomfort, hoping it passes, hoping they go back to feeling content with less. But once you've outgrown something, you can't ungrow it. You can't unknow what you now know about yourself, about what you're capable of. The discomfort wasn't meant to be permanent. It was meant to be a catalyst. So here it is. You don't need to see the full path. You just need to trust the next step. And that step might look nothing like you expected. It might mean ending something that looks perfect from the outside. It might mean starting something that makes no logical sense. It might mean saying no to opportunities others think you're insane to refuse. Or saying yes to possibilities that scare you more than excite you. Right before a breakthrough, you stop operating by society's rules, family programming, or your past self's limitations. You start operating from deep, quiet knowing, the one that finally has permission to speak. This is why the breakthrough period feels isolating, because you're no longer deciding from what makes sense to others. You're deciding from what feels true to the version of you emerging. But here's the deciding factor. You must stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, opportunity, ideal circumstance. The signal? Already here. That restlessness, dissatisfaction, quiet whispers saying you're meant for more, that was your invitation. And right here, pause again for a second, because this is the line that pulls the crowd in. Go to the comments and write, "I am on my way." Because humans can resist advice, but they can't resist comparing signs. They'll answer, they'll argue, they'll confess, they'll share, and your question becomes their story. And their story becomes your reach. The people who transform aren't the ones who wait until they're ready. They don't linger in the comfort of preparation, polishing themselves endlessly for a moment that may never feel perfect. They evolve because they finally understand something subtle yet seismic. The discomfort itself is the readiness. Most of us are conditioned to believe that clarity comes first and action follows. That certainty must arrive before movement begins. But real transformation flips that logic entirely. Growth begins when comfort ends. The cocoon feels tight before the wings unfold. The seed breaks before the tree stands. Becoming is always preceded by friction. The uneasy phase, the one we fear, is the same phase that announces that we are no longer meant to remain unchanged. That feeling of being unsettled, it wasn't a warning to go back to sleep. It wasn't a cosmic error, a personal failure, or a misalignment of fate. It was your internal system sounding an alarm of expansion, a whisper that grew too loud to ignore, a signal that said, "This version of life has been outgrown. This identity has become too small. This chapter is complete." When restlessness rises, most people reach for distraction. They numb the noise with habits, relationships, routines, entertainment, anything to avoid sitting with the truth of the moment. But a few, the rare few, do something braver. They sit in the discomfort long enough to decode it. They realize it's not asking them to shrink back into familiarity. It's demanding they stand up and step forward into possibility. It was a sign to finally wake up. Wake up to your potential. Wake up to the fact that stagnation hurts more than uncertainty ever will. Wake up to the truth that nothing in your life is collapsing. It's making space, clearing itself out so something truer can take root. So if this found you today, if something inside you stirred, if your nervous system leaned in before your mind even processed the words, trust that reaction. That stir is recognition. That nudge is truth tapping you on the shoulder. You are not early. You are not late. You are on time. This moment was chosen by your deeper self, not your doubts. Trust it. Trust the timing. Trust the process. Trust the pressure, the pull, the invitation. Because the universe doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards participation. It answers the one who moves, not the one who waits. The doors open to motion. The current carries the one who stops resisting and starts cooperating with the flow. Because your breakthrough, it isn't coming like a future event you must brace for. It already arrived. It arrived quietly, wearing the mask of dissatisfaction. It arrived in the exhaustion that forced you to question. It arrived in the collapse of what no longer fit. It arrived as the very restlessness you once thought was the enemy. But now you see it clearly. You weren't outrunning collapse. You were outrunning the old. And the old was never your destination. So, open your hand. Unclench your heart. Take one honest step. Declare your awakening not with noise, but with presence. The revolution isn't loud. It's lived. And you are living it now.